Good evening. How are you guys doing? Hello, can you hear me now? Kevin, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Dan.
Oh, good.
I couldn't a second ago, but you must have been on mute.
Yeah, I unmuted. It probably took a little delay. Hey, Dennis.
Dan, did you get snow or rain last night?
Yes.
Yes, you got both.
Yeah, we got probably 6 or 7 inches of snow. And this morning, somewhere around maybe 4 or 5 o'clock, it switched over to rain and became a pretty sloppy mess, probably
Oh.
4 or 5 inches deep.
Hmm.
So not the best. I mean, there's no chance you could use a snow blower or just clog the chute.
Yeah. Oh,
So everything was, buckets and shovels and not good. Oh, Steve, quick question. Are we taking these budgets in the order that they're presented on the agenda?
we certainly can, whatever you guys want.
Well, I'm just wondering if our treasurer will be present for the discussion.
I don't think so.
Emergency management?
No, I don't think any of them are.
So
We can
none,
have them back if you want.
yeah. Okay, I just trying to figure out which order I want to open up the spreadsheet.
Yeah. Oh, let me give you the ability to do that.
No, I just want to open for myself.
Oh, for yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't need to share
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
I
I think
mean,
it prepares to go in the order that we said.
yeah. If you do give me the rights, that'd be fine. If questions come up on the forecast, because I have that spreadsheet up.
Okay, let me do that.
Otherwise, I'll let Mr. Butler run things.
Okay. I will make you the co-host so you can share, Dan.
All right.
Better-
I'm really looking forward to Doug's performance.
Let's see if he's on time.
He is. He just jumped in, so.
There.
Excellent.
Wondered if Doug will rival the Bill Carroll performance. So let's see what we get tonight.
What does that mean, though? That's a big spectrum, really.
Well, you know it when you see it.
That's right.
And welcome, Ellie. I don't know if people have said hi to you yet, but I see you. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
welcome.
I know. Congratulations, Ellie.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations.
Thanks. Excited to be here.
Don't let the first meeting scare you off.
Okay.
Hey, am I rocking my normal high pitched?
You're, You sound good, Doug.
You sound great.
No, well, there we go. Kelly, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Love the fact that my work computer will not allow me to access Jim's stuff. Uh,
Mr. Chairman, you do have a quorum. You can start when you are ready.
Well, it says 7:01 on my thing. I'll give people till 7:02. I'll be
Oh, it's the start of a benevolent dictatorship. Look at that.
be kind, new age Doug.
He's already asserting himself.
All right, I guess it's 7:02. We called it to order. The first order of business is there anybody from the public who is looking to participate in a wonderful exchange with the Finance Committee?
I do not see any, Mr. Chairman.
I do not see any either. If we didn't have any for the school thing, we're not gonna have any today. Oh, no, just Evan.
That's it.
All right, next up in the docket is the approval of the minutes for January 12th. I assume everybody was able to get through and read through. Were there any changes or suggestions anyone had?
One item, on item number 6, at the end, I think we need a percentage sign added to that 1.96.
Yep. Okay, sure.
Okay,
With that modification, I'll move approval.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, none. All right, well, our first budget up tonight. Is the treasurer's budget, which I believe we've slashed 97% in the past timeframe, but
before you go
that's
to,
the town accountant.
right, before you go to that, you may want to have the sub chair of the town hall committee make an opening statement and then turn it to Kevin.
Okay, the sub chair here.
Evan is here, yes.
Yeah. Well, Evan, would you like to make a statement about the,
Yeah, I think in general, a good group of, it's a good representative of the work that Steve and the department heads and Kevin are doing. As usual, it's sort of a benign group. I'll let Kevin and Steve sort of touch on the highlights, but I think in general, I think it's fair to say the subcommittee's comfortable with what they saw.
sounds good. Anybody else from the subcommittee? If anybody else is here.
Yeah, I agree with Evan, so.
can I ask a question? Does the subcommittee publish minutes?
Yes, they do.
Do we have the minutes?
They may be on your website, but I can get them to you.
Oh, okay, all right. If they're there,
Yeah, they're pretty benign as well.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Kevin. Kevin told me not to talk tonight and to save my voice for Saturday.
Save your voice till Saturday. So tonight we're going to be looking at 11 budgets. These 11 in total, there's a decrease of little under $25,000, or 1.33%. The big drop is in the veteran services, but let's go down one by one. I'll start with the treasurers. This budget, we're recommending an increase of $5,407 over the current fiscal year. There's an increase in personal services, $5,507, which is due to a contractual and negotiated increase. Small decreases under contractual services. We reduced postage and travel by $50. Major expenses within this budget, we have $13,000 for tax title, which is used for attorney's fees and lien court costs. $7,500 for bank charges, cost to maintain the town's bank accounts and cost of checks. We do collect some revenue in this department. We collect tax title. So far, year to date, we've collected over $230,000. The total budget request for fiscal '24 is $239,324.
Any questions? You know, see anybody's hand up? We're not voting on any of these tonight, right, Steve?
No, usually doing them all at the end. I think you have Ed Bean raised his hand, Mr. Chairman.
There we go. Mr. Beal?
It's pretty sparse budget, Kevin, I think. I'm just curious, where do we pay the bond issuance costs? Do we do that out of premium from bonds? Usually the treasurer pays that. I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, most of it comes out of the premium. If there is any overages, it would go into that bank charge line item.
Okay.
But usually it's all through the premium.
Yeah,
in most cases.
that's usually how, most communities can pay it off. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Next budget up is the fire alarm and traffic signals.
Fire alarm budget, we're recommending an increase to this budget of $3,811 over the current fiscal year. This department has been very busy due to ongoing new development within town. They've also been doing utility pole changeovers, fixing and replacing aging traffic and dispatch equipment. They also maintain master boxes at private businesses. We do charge a yearly fee for those private master boxes. We charge $225 per year, and we collect $35,000 or a little over $35,000 annually. The total budget request is $70,511.
Any questions? I have one question for you, Kevin.
Yep.
Just in terms of the personal services.
Yep.
Line in there, it's more just a question of like, are we concerned that we're gonna be over significantly this year?
No, what's happening is because of the warmer weather in through the end of November and December, they were able to do more work outside. Usually that's their slow period of the year. So they were taking advantage of the warmer weather. And they're anticipating a slower down right about now through February, beginning of March. So it does slow down right around now.
Okay, so we shouldn't expect it to come in at 53,000.
No,
Okay.
unless there's some major issue.
Right, right. Any other questions on this budget?
Can I ask a question I should have asked before? So I apologize. And Kevin, I'll ask you, Steve, you can nod your head, but if you said this at the last meeting, I apologize. So when I look at the treasurer or look at other budgets, and I have the police department budget, of course, so not all the increases are negotiated because the managers are getting raises. So it's not all negotiated increases. Is 3% the standard for department heads across the board?
Yeah, I would say for the most part, that's a standard.
Okay, because I see, again, I have the police department budget that I've looked at, and I'm looking, I've looked at this, and I just, as we go through these, just looking or wondering if it's that kind of consistency, that's your prevailing thought about, you know, what you give your leadership.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Sure. Oh, sorry, Brian, go ahead.
So I'm looking at the personal services line item and it's up 5.71% for the year. But they've only spent 37% thus far of their budget, you know, halfway through the year. And I'm just curious what the, like 5.71% jumps out at me as a fairly high percentage. And I'm just curious what that's about.
Yeah, if you look at the year-to-date expend, we are higher on the personal services because of the warmer weather, as I had mentioned. But if you see materials and supplies, that's more than halfway expended through half the year. Supplies are costing more, so it's just, you know, so they have supplies on hand when needed.
Got it.
The cost of supplies are just keep going up.
Got it. Thank you.
And there's also more traffic signals as we go. So there's more need.
Dennis, did you have a question there?
Yeah, do we get insurance reimbursement for auto accidents taken down?
I know we have in the past. I haven't seen any recently, though.
So who's in charge of going after the insurance company?
Would it be,
We're actually gonna start running those more through emergency management when you get to it.
Right, because, I mean, there's quite a few accidents, so that's why I don't know.
Yeah, but not all of them involve a traffic signal.
Well, I know that, but when they do it, it's a big line item.
Right.
Ken?
Yeah, because we've spent more than half partway through the year, I'm wondering, are we gonna need a reserve fund transfer on this account?
no, I've talked to Randy Hudson. He heads up the traffic signals and the fire alarm. He anticipates a slowdown with the colder weather. So there won't be any outside work probably till sometime probably in April, unless it's an emergency.
But is it not salaried? I mean, I'm looking at personal services, so is he like on a part-time basis where sometimes he works and sometimes he doesn't?
He does get a stipend, but then if he has to go out, he gets additional pay. So there'll be some personal service expenditures, but we don't anticipate as much as we've seen through half the year.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Don, go ahead. Oh, you're on mute, Don.
Sorry, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but the folks that do the work, the personal services in this department are employed elsewhere in the town, and this is additional compensation
Yes,
that they
they
receive in addition to a full-time job that they have in the town or a
right.
full-time job.
Randy is a captain, I believe, Steve, a lieutenant, or captain.
Captain.
Captain in the fire department. And he also has one other, maybe two other individuals that help him with fire alarm. They don't get paid their, not the same rate that they do as fire. It's a lower rate.
Anything else on fire and traffic light? Ellie, you picked a rip roaring one to join for.
Oh, just wait till she gets down a few, then you guys can have some fun, right?
That's true. Emergency management?
Emergency management, we're requesting an increase of $1,676 over the current fiscal year. This increase is all in personal services and is for a negotiated salary increase. Main expenses within this budget under contractual services is a line item for $10,000 for the Emergency Operations Center, which is the room at the Public Safety Building. And this is used to service, upgrade, and maintain the equipment in the control center. And then there's a $16,000 line item for the notification system, which is basically the reverse 911. Total budget request is $90,527.
Can I just ask again, Kevin, is all of that now I'm looking at emergency director, is he negotiated?
Yep.
Pardon me?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a union position?
No.
Nope.
No.
No.
Okay, when you say negotiated, maybe I don't understand the way you use the word, I apologize.
We work, Steve and the department head.
Yeah.
Will negotiate.
I've always thought when you refer to negotiated, that meant that those were as a result of negotiated union contracts, not.
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Similar to like the legal budget with Tom Mullen. That Tom is not a union employee.
Oh, right.
We consider that a negotiated increase between Steve and the department head.
Okay, I don't know, I might offer
Yeah,
different,
we-
I understand when you say
clear.
negotiated, it comes with union people raises, but I don't naturally think of that when you're talking about, Steve's direct reports or managers. So I'm just offering that as a thought.
Okay.
And I'll get off it.
Edward and then Stefan.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna follow up on Bill's comment there. So there's no salary classification plan for the department heads. This is basically negotiated with Steve and Kevin with each department head.
Correct.
Okay, all right. But of course, there's a salary classification plan for the union employees.
Correct.
Steps and whatnot. Yeah, okay,
So department heads have no steps
okay,
unless they're a union member, and there are some that are union members. At least
Okay.
supervisors are union members.
okay.
Huh? All right, are you done?
Yep.
Just one point of clarification. I believe when we are talking about the union employees, I believe it's usually said that there are contractual increases as opposed to negotiated increases. I just wanted to point that out. I believe that's how they're usually stated when we go through these.
Right.
Question for me, what are the supplies and why haven't they bought any? Actually, zero would have been better than $285.
Might not have been as accurate, though.
No.
No, there wasn't a need for the first half of the
It's more
year.
just like, we just put $3,000 in and whatever he spends, he spends.
No, I think if you look at historical,
Yeah, it looks like these around there. I just was like, oh, it looks good. Okay. All right, inspectional services.
Hang on. Brian had a question.
Oh, sorry, Brian.
That's okay. I don't typically talk about myself in the third person. I just want to make that clear.
Just when you're not on camera.
Exactly. So yeah, I hate to sort of come back to this, but I'm looking at the contractual services, and in this budget, we're at 74% for the year. Right. And so is this going to require a reserve fund transfer at the end of the year, or do we feel like that's right where it should be?
no, they pay for some of that, like the emergency notification system. That's a lump sum. So it's all paid up front
Got it.
in the first half of the year. So you won't see that. If there's any additional, it will be small amounts of money. but the vast majority is paid upfront.
There you go. Thank you, Kevin.
Is that the same thing with the op center in terms of why are you 2/3 done there halfway through the year?
Yep.
Okay. Now we get to move on to inspectional services, although is that an upgraded naming convention? Didn't they used to be like the Board of Inspectors or something like that? Wait a minute. You identify their name?
Used to be the building department.
Oh, okay. And that's what it is on the spreadsheet.
Right. Yeah.
So. Alongside posh new name, do they have posh new budget?
Excuse me? I didn't hear what you say, Doug.
I said alongside the posh new name, do they have a posh new budget?
No, but they brought in over $1 million in fees so far this fiscal year. As we talked about a couple meetings ago.
Don't bring up old meetings with me.
Go ahead, Kevin.
All right.
Sorry, Doug, I think last time you had the wrong mic device on. You kind of sound like you're underwater. I'm just wondering if that's the problem.
Oh,
Again.
am I still sounding underwater now? Like they told me I sounded lovely. Ah,
Oh, all right. I don't know. Maybe it's
maybe they just have a.
I'm with Evan on this one.
yeah. Well, Brian with the crystal clear audio, so we can't all be as good as Brian. But I just want to let you know, Doug.
All right.
Inspectional services, we're recommending that this budget be increased to $18,329. There is an increase in personal services of $15,629, which is for contractual and negotiated increases. I do want to point out the clerical union is settled, so those members are known. The supervisors is not settled. We put a 2.5% COLA in there. When they do settle their contract, if there's anything over, if they get anything over 2.5, it'll be funded through an article. Under materials and supplies, there was a $2,500 increase. We increased the book line item $2,000. They're anticipating in fiscal 24, not updates, but actual new building and electrical code books are going to be needed. And then a small increase in the uniform line item for $500. Main expenses in this budget, vehicle allowance, $6,600, which is a contractual line item. As Steve had mentioned, we do collect revenue in this department. Fiscal 21, we collected approximately $680,000 for the fiscal year. In fiscal 22, we collected $682,000. In year-to-date for fiscal 23, we've collected over $1 million. The total budget request for fiscal 24 is $457,107.
All right. Edward?
Call me Ed, not Edward. That's only my mother calls me Edward. Few questions, Kevin. You mentioned, I'm looking at well, first of all, this would be the department that collects the building permit revenue, correct?
Correct.
I'm sure that was a huge increase in the revenue this year with all the development going on. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is all good news, of course. I'm looking at the personal services breakdown, just again, trying to understand the salaries. You mentioned, I'm looking at building commissioner. Is that a department head or is that a supervisor? You mentioned a supervisor unit.
He's the department head of the building department, and it is a union position.
Okay, so I see a 3% there. The clericals, I see various percentage increases. I'm looking at the last one down, the last clerical, which went up 11%. So I was curious to find out what that's about, whether that's retro over a couple of years based on the collective bargaining agreement or what. I see 11% increase there, and then the electrical inspector 2%. Various increases here.
Yeah.
What about the last one, 11%? Was that a reclassification or?
So it is a clerical position. So it includes a COLA and a step. And I believe they maybe even got another step in there to bring them up to other clerical at that level.
Okay, so that's a reclassification, basically. You
Yeah.
Explain that, yeah. What is vacation replacement? Is that overtime?
No, vacation replacement is when a building inspector or plumbing or electrical is away, and we have to provide an inspection within certain number of hours from the request, and the inspector isn't there, so we hire a temporary replacement to come in and do that.
On contract or a PS, so personal services?
Oh, contract.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's a per inspection sort of thing, so it's very.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm familiar with that. Okay. Yeah, those are my questions. Thank you.
Anyone else? Rec department?
The Recreation Department, we're requesting an increase of $2,990 over the current fiscal year. This increase is all in personal services and is for an anticipated contractual and negotiated increase. So this is the COLA. This person is in the supervisory union. So we put a 2.5 in there. Anything over the 2.5 would be funded through an article. This budget is covered from fees generated by the recreation program and activity account. So the program and activity account is in a revolving account. And we'll transfer this salary out of the revolving account into the general fund to cover his cost. The expense portion of this budget is funded out of the revolving account. In fiscal 22, we collected $557,000 in fees. We expended $503,000 in expenses. Current balance in the revolving account is $42,000. And the total budget request for fiscal 24 is $122,589.
Any questions?
I think Ed has his hand up, Doug.
So it sounds like fees pretty much cover everything through the revolving fund.
Right, yes,
So there's no real subsidy. Everyone is charged, basically, right?
correct.
Okay.
No,
Probably should have asked this.
There are
at the
people
sub-
that may be, no, let me
What?
just add, there may be some people that aren't charged due to
Personal income
Personal
circumstances, sure. Well,
kind of
that's
like school lunches before everyone got.
right, and that's the right thing to do, you know.
Yeah, I probably should have asked this at the subcommittee meeting, but so all the other expenses in this budget flow through the revolving fund? And it's
Correct.
only the salary that gets moved to the general
Correct,
fund?
yes. So basically all recreation is covered from the fees generated by the programs and activities.
And do we ever look at the revolving fund accounts as a finance committee?
I think they have in the past, maybe not in the past year or two, but I know in the past they have looked at them.
Dennis?
Does he get a salary for doing the Americal Civic Center as a separate item or?
That's
Is it all
rolled in, that's rolled into the salary. So no, the answer is no.
So is there a charge back for the Americal Civic Center budget?
For his salary, I don't believe we charge back for his salary, but it's the town building anyway.
Right.
I understand, but he's doing administrative, like you charge back public works, stuff like that. I'm just trying to keep things even.
We do not.
One question, it looked like you put in a 2.5, but did he get moved from a step 7 or from a grade 7 to a grade 9?
No, No, he's the same.
Oh, okay, I'm just
No.
on the, you see on the spreadsheet there
Yeah.
where it says,
I do see it. He is maxed, so
Oh,
he
okay.
should have been staying at the same level. The only thing he got was a COLA what we anticipate the COLA to be for the supervisory. If there's anything over and above that, it will be funded through an article.
Brian, you had a question?
I did, sir. Was it Dan? Were you just talking, the prior question? Was that you, Dan?
No, I think that was me. Doug.
Okay. Butler. So my question is, did you ask that about oversight over the revolving accounts? Is that because there is some concern that if no, like, does anybody look over those accounts and review them to make sure that they're all on the up and up? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, I think that was my question, Brian.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Good.
It's done.
Excellent.
So,
Kevin reviews them all.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
That
yeah,
is-
I just hadn't recalled that we've reviewed these in the past, so.
Right.
And I didn't know if there was any precedence or need to review those revolving fund accounts, so.
Excellent. Thank you.
We can certainly make them available. Former FinCom member Mark Luca loved revolving accounts.
I know oh, go ahead, Don, or Don, did you have another question?
No.
I know we brought Dan over from Reading, right? And in terms of is Rector a pretty competitive position because it does generate revenue for a town? Are we sure that we're, is 2.5 going to be good enough?
Well, he is a member of the union. There will certainly, if the COLA is 2.5, there may be some other things, steps and things like that. Can't really give that away because we're in negotiations. I will tell you that Dan McGrath has told me exceedingly happy, loves his job, loves where he is, loves the support he gets. And really taken that rec department to new heights, and he's telling me that he's going to explode even more this year in new activities and stuff. So I think we'll see a lot more fees coming in, and I know he's setting me up for more staff. I've been in this game for a while, so which may be warranted, but he was an absolute gem of a find, and I think that Mr. Boudry might have been involved in that process when we did find him. So,
All right. The Veteran Services.
Veteran Services, we are requesting a decrease of $58,707 over the current fiscal year. There is an increase in personal services, which is a contractual and negotiated increase. Under contractual services, there's a small increase in the professional services line item, which is used to cover the portion of salaries, our portion of the salaries as part of the municipal agreement between Melrose, Wakefield, and Saugus. The recipient line item that we did talk about last year, we did reduce $60,000 because of usage. We do get reimbursed up to 75% of that recipient line item from the state. The total budget request for fiscal '24 is $194,513.
Questions?
we should get kudos for Mr. Sherman. Where is he? Did he?
I was expecting it, but I did not raise his hand. So it's Brian up first and then Don.
So I remember having a fairly in-depth conversation about this point, and it was pretty clear that, we were seeing that the monies were not being used each year. And so the idea was to make the budget more realistic in terms of what we're actually spending. I happened to read an article in the paper, Steve Mayo, where it was pretty clear that there are some people who are not happy with this idea and think that we're underfunding and kind of not being proper with our veterans in town. And I mean, I find that to be a little objectionable because we are thinking about it and we are doing the right thing, I think. And if anybody does show up and needs more and we don't have it, we're not going to say no, is what I understand. So
Correct.
I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. I can't make everybody happy, Brian.
Well, see, now I'm not sure that's true. No.
Don, is there a question?
Yeah, so I just wanted to follow up on Brian's comment regarding the same article. I thought it misrepresented the approach being taken to the veterans budget. And also didn't indicate that the portion of the budget that we did cut is that portion that would automatically get increased if needed and is reimbursed by the state to the 75%. So I felt like the article or the discussion of what occurred at the town council was a bit misrepresented.
Okay, so not a question.
Not a question, just a comment.
All right, Dan?
Yeah, so obviously I'm pleased to see that the reduction. And I have just one question, one comment. I'm curious if there was any pushback at the town council level on this reduction.
The town council did discuss it, voted 6-1 in favor of the budget.
Okay,
I said to the town council at the meeting that we had many, we were going to follow this, that we were following trends. However, if we did find that we were,
There's supposed to be a bird on that.
we needed more. We needed more money for this, as in the past. I think some of the veterans may remember there were, years ago that we actually had reserve fund transfers in this budget because it wasn't right sized then. But that no veteran would be left unhelped or unaided. And whether I had to go in the fall and look for more money, in the spring to look for more money, or reserve fund transfer, that we had many bites of the apple to take care of it. So there was a pretty spirited discussion. But I think that the fact that there was the trend, and we try to follow trends, and we do have, if we went halfway through the year, this year, we still have a little bit of a cushion. And we'll keep looking at that. So I think that's a fair assessment.
yeah, so and then my comment was exactly on that trend, because I recalled the conversation last year was that the veterans or the staff were going to do some outreach and put in a bigger effort to try to reach the veterans and tell them about these benefits and make sure they, apply if they're eligible. And I note that the increase or the first 6 months at $43,000, if that goes through for the rest of the year, it would actually be bigger than both fiscal year 22 and 21. So my gut tells me that the outreach was probably a success to some extent. So kudos to that. Thank you.
I would agree. Thank you, Dan.
Oh, there was another question. Evan, did you have a question or no?
Not a question, Mr. Chairman, just I'm going to give a little bit of a less diplomatic answer here with respect to I didn't see the article in the paper, but to suggest that this is anything other than prudent budgeting is really silly. If you think this means we're taking away benefits from veterans, first of all, the law doesn't allow for that. Secondly, it follows the spend trends. And by the way, there's plenty of buffer here if you look at spend versus budget still, because I think, as we discussed in the subcommittee meeting, there's a proactive effort going on in the Veterans Department to increase awareness and outreach for folks who may not know that they're entitled to benefits, right? We want to make sure we reach as many of those people as possible. This budget here, I think, allows for plenty of buffer to do that. And to the extent that we exceed that, I would almost view it as a success, frankly. And we have, as Steve said, plenty of bites at the apple to make sure we cover that. So I didn't see the article, but if whoever has that opinion, I just might question their understanding of finance in general, but I just think I think it's a prudent move, as we discussed last year.
Yeah, I did not see the article in the paper because earlier this year, or about 2 months ago, we improved our family's budget by saving ourselves $4 on getting the item delivered. So yes, and I imagine the article was written by one of the key instigators around my budgetary savings. And I would go so far, Evan, as to say doesn't only not know finance, but also probably doesn't have a great grasp of math. We will move forward with the next article or the next series of budgets, unless anybody has further questions. Since we're all commenting, join in. Streetlights. All right.
The
Yeah,
streetlight
Bauer?
budget, streetlight, we're requesting level funding. Just a little history, 6 years ago, the municipal light department received a state grant. They were able to replace all the town's streetlights with LED streetlights, which did generate a savings that they passed on to us, $25,000, brought it down to the current budget. Once the capital costs are paid, that they had to do the switch over to these LEDs, it's either 2 or 3 more years. There'll be additional savings, probably in the range of $20,000 to $25,000. There are approximately 2,300 streetlights within the town. 1,800 are in residential neighborhoods. And the total budget request for fiscal '24 is $188,131.
Ed?
Yes, how was the conversion financed? Was it through this grant?
Through
Was it
the-
a general fund, or was there did you borrow to do that, or what? How did that happen?
No, it was funded through the light department.
Through the general fund?
No, the
No.
light department is not part of the general fund. It's.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yep.
Yeah.
My apologies, absolutely. Thank you.
Brian?
So if I'm reading this budget correctly, it would appear that we haven't actually spent any of it through but the halfway point of the year.
We get billed once a year. The invoice came in the beginning of January. We just paid it.
Got it. Thank you.
Dennis?
Yeah, can we get a spreadsheet to show when this is gonna be paid off? We should have something so we can anticipate what they're gonna do and when they're gonna have it paid off.
Yeah, I have an email spelling that out. I'll try to find, I'll find that and send it to the chair to disperse.
If we didn't pay it, would they be able to substitute it from their pilot? Sorry, Dan, I didn't see your question.
Would they be able to substitute it? Yeah, I guess they wouldn't pay us. I mean, what would happen?
Okay, Dan.
So I'm curious, Kevin, do you have a ballpark on when this will go away? I mean, should I include something in my forecast spreadsheet for this going
it's
away?
It was either an 8-year or a 9-year payoff. I'm gonna have to go back to look at the email to see when that change was.
Okay, yeah, I'll incorporate that in my spreadsheet when I get that. Thank you.
I was thinking it was 2026 that it was gonna be paid off.
Right, but that's not gonna go to zero.
Right, yeah, that was
No.
my other follow-up, not wise ass question. Like, that's only going, you said it's only gonna drop by about 25,000, so there's just the cost of streetlights is 160 grand.
Right.
Okay. The Historical Commission.
Historical Commission, we're recommending level funding. Main expenses within this budget, $1,030 in the printing line item, which is used to advertise meetings. There's a $500 line item for materials and supplies, which is used for signage repair and upgrades. There was talk about some work being done for some items within town that would be more capital in nature, that they didn't want to fund it through this particular budget, but it would be with regards to the Historical Commission. But the total budget request for this budget is $2,000.
Questions? Kevin, I guess my only question is, we're spending $1,030, we're spending half their budget to advertise in the paper the meetings for the Historical Commission?
Doug,
I
I can answer that.
Yeah,
I can answer that. When there is a request for the demolition, it applies into the demolition bylaw, there has to be public notice of it in the paper for the hearing.
oh, okay.
Previously, it was $250. Right now, we've actually had two of them in the last few weeks that are coming in. The item is now charging $362 for this public notice. You don't know how many they're going to have during the year. I mean, like literally in the last month, there've been two, and there were some earlier in the year, which, however, in working with town council and Steve and Betsy, it appears that in 2018 at town meeting, there was a bylaw revision. You may recall that we had it at FinCom, where the applicant was to pay $250 for this public notice. It was amended at town meeting somehow or other. It didn't get into the meeting package. It was amended at town meeting. It was passed, but it never made it to the bylaw itself to be approved by the Attorney General. However, in talking with Tom Mullen and Steve and Betsy, we've resolved that issue. We are now getting it to the Attorney General, even though it's 4 years late, for approval, and that will obviously change the need for the publication, at least part of it, because the applicant will now have to pay $250 for the public notice. Hopefully, the Attorney General approves it.
Yeah, I think Tom's very confident. I actually watched the tape of town meeting today, of the 2018 town meeting, and there was the motion on the floor was different than what was in the warrant book. For some reason, when I guess the bylaw committee made a change after we had all gone through the process. So, but it looks like I have all the binders that I made fun of for keeping for every town meeting, every piece of paper was right in there. So Brian, stop laughing. I can see you laughing at the bottom. I was able to pull it up, even the red stuff that was changed. So it's all set. Tom's very confident that will be fine. He's already talked to the AG, so for the AG's office. So that'll be a big help. And it should be paid that way anyway, as other people pay when you go for a Board of Appeals hearing or for planning board hearing.
I will say, thank God I dodged that bullet. All right, next.
I think Ed has.
I just wanted to
Oh,
make a
does
comment. That was all very interesting, Steve. I have a departmental revolving fund in Somerville that pays for all of the applicant pays for all of the publication fees. So I guess with the town, you got to get the AG's approval to do that. But we hit the applicant for all of that stuff. So I hope we can get to that point here. Yeah.
Unemployment budget.
The unemployment budget, we are requesting level funding. This budget is split into two line items. $25,000 for the town, $50,000 for the schools. The total budget request for fiscal '24 is $75,000.
Questions from anyone? Oh, is my voice better, by the way? Or do I still sound muddled?
Sound great, Doug?
Voice is good.
I guess my only question is, it looks like the schools do some layoffs, or what they do? Why are they already at 30 grand for this year? Which seems like a relatively high number, but maybe they always end up high.
Yeah, they do. It's a function of having many employees, some part-time, substitute teachers that and sometimes it only takes one or two people let go for it to really add up.
The claim, okay. Don?
Right, but, so we self-fund this. And my understanding is the schools have a number of vacancies, so I would think that these are probably terminations that may or may not, that could be disputed in terms of whether they would be eligible for unemployment. Do we generally dispute unemployment claims
Yes,
for people who are dismissed?
yes, we actually have a UTMC. I think it's UTMC. We have a company that handles those claims for us. They have for many, many years now, and we do receive money back, but it takes a while for the state to get it back to you, because then they go after the applicant, and then the applicant has to pay it back, and it takes a while, but we have successfully fought a number of them. If you fight them early on and you get it stopped, it stops the bleeding, really. So.
Yeah. And we use that both for the town side and the school side?
Yes, yeah.
Anybody else, questions? Closing in. Ready. Up next, reserve fund and then professional.
Yeah, reserve fund, we're requesting level funding. This budget is used for unforeseen, unbudgeted or under budgeted expenses and or emergencies. The total budget request is $400,000. Through the budgets that we've heard so far in these, in this meeting, in the prior meeting, there are a couple departments that we will need reserve funds at the end of the year. We could do them now, but I like to wait till the end of the year to get a clearer picture of the actual amounts that we need. The town clerk, there was a longtime employee that retired at the beginning of the fiscal year. That person got a payout for sick leave buyback and vacation time that they had. So there was their spend through half the year was higher than it should have been. Hopefully we can make some of it up by the end of the year. The second one was the Conservation Commission, where their hours were increased from 20 to 24 hours a week. So those additional hours will need to be paid up to a reserve fund transfer.
Okay. Ed?
Yeah, so I see that folks were, Steve, you and the town council were revising the financial policies for the town. I was just curious, is there a policy regarding the reserve fund? Do you have like a target metric that you come up with the 400,000, or is that embedded in the financial policies?
It is, and in fact, we may in the next couple of years want to increase this to it's 0.5% of the operating budget, in a nutshell. So we may want to increase this in the next few years. I think we increased it a few years ago from 300 to 400. So that's something we are looking at, but that is part of our policy.
Okay. Thank you.
This doesn't revolve, right? So the 128, it doesn't just sit with 272 in there carried over from last year, or just we reset it every year.
Correct. Yeah. Whatever's left over returns to the general fund.
Okay. And then professional.
Last budget is the professional medical budget. We're requesting that this budget be increased $2,450 over the current fiscal year. This increase breaks down $1,650 to the tax levy and $800 to the water and sewer department. This increase is due to an increase in costs for these services, which are basically employee physicals. We have pre-employment physicals, mandatory Department of Transportation physicals for employees with CDL licenses. We also use them for return to work physicals. I do want to point out, when we hire police and fire, their physicals are much more expensive than a regular worker where they do psychological exams and everything. Those can cost up to $1,500 each. The total budget request for fiscal '24 is $13,300, with $10,000 coming from the tax levy, $1,650 from the water enterprise, and $1,650 from the sewer enterprise.
Stefan,
Does this also include drug testing for new employees for the town?
Yes.
Thank you.
anything else? Any other questions? Alrighty, we're off the hook. Any subcommittee comments? I'll add in for the schools. They have this finance and facilities subcommittee meeting. I'm not sure, they didn't let me, and I don't know if they let Jim know. And I granted it's published, but again, as I said before, I don't get the paper. We missed that one last week, but I think they don't really begin talking about like really filling us in on their budget until I believe they started to go through the principles is when they start to go through that. So we'll hopefully be the school committee subcommittee will attend that, their next one, which I think is in a couple of weeks, or at least maybe it might be as soon as next week. So waiting to hear from Mr. Markham.
Amy, Ed and I are meeting with the chief and deputy chief of police next Tuesday at 6:30. Zooming.
Okay.
Yesterday, Teray and I met with the library board of trustees. It's gonna be a very boring budget.
No chairs?
No.
Might be interesting for folks to know, Steve, of course, you know, but the police cameras were going to be deployed Monday to the personnel. Be their first day wearing cameras.
Yeah.
So those were acquired via a grant.
Would you say you got quite a rant about them? It was a grant.
Grant.
You got a grant and a rant.
Yeah. Well, it didn't seem like they ranted too much. Though.
No.
Kind of interesting. Yeah, this is good.
I guess there was very little union resistance to this. That's what I understood.
There was a bit, but
A little bit?
a little bit, yeah. But I think that I will stack our department against anybody, and they are so well trained and really consummate professionals that I think, and I believe that the cameras actually help them, because that is exactly what happened out there, not someone's opinion. But it is a thing that they're the only people that wear a camera all day. So that is, I get it.
Doug, I'll move to adjourn if nobody has anything else. And
Can I just remind everybody, town meeting on Saturday at 9 a.m. at the high school field house. Our fearless leader tonight will represent the finance committee up at the microphone.
Which is a very good thing that Steve mentioned it today, because my odds of being there
Just went up dramatically.
just went up dramatically. Yes.
Well, if you got the item, you'd see it in the item every night.
No, I drive by the sign. I mean, there's only so many you can only
You,
leave the
you
water.
drive by the sign in your own yard.
Yes, you get right, exactly. You can waterboard the horse only so many times. Anyhow, well, motion to adjourn.
Made.
Aye, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See you.
everybody.
Have a good night.
Nice meeting you, Ellie.
Thank you.
I don't.
Good night.